So I'm going to go through the conversion problems, and something important, I would recommend trying these before I go through them and make sure that you understand all my explanations, because if you do, then these should be pretty easy. So the first one, I'm asking you to convert 3.52 feet into inches, and so the first step is to identify your given. So your given in this case is going to be 3.2 feet. Now, I want to get into inches, and so what I do before I worry about numbers, before I worry about anything, I'm going to deal with the units. So I'm going to crisscross-swoosh. I'm going to put feet on bottom, and the reason why I want to do this is because I'm right now in feet, and so what happens is that these feet will cancel. Okay? And so now that I put feet on the bottom, I now want to get into inches, so I'm going to put inches up top. Okay. Now, I'm either going to provide you with the relationship in the problem, or you'll look at your table. In this case, I provide you with the relationship, and so you should know that the 12 goes in front of inches because there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So all that you're going to have to do now is do the math. So 3.2 times 12. And I'm going to grab my calculator. So I do that, 3.2 times 12, and I get 38.4. Now, important things, my units are inches. That was the whole point of this. The other important thing is sig figs. So there are always two things whenever you write an answer that you need to check. Units and sig figs. Now, this right here, you might look at this relationship and say, oh, well, that's 2 sig figs and that's 1 sig fig, so my final answer should have 1 sig fig. That's not the case, because this value is exact. Anytime I am counting or I have a relationship such as 12 inches equals 1 foot, that's exact, and with exact numbers, we don't use sig figs. And so the only value here that's actually measured that I consider sig figs for is 3.2. So as a result, my final answer is going to be 38 inches, 2 sig figs, okay? And that's it. So not 1 sig fig, not 40, 38. Right? Let's do the next one. I start with 2.5 meters as my given. I'm going to crisscross-swoosh. I'm going to deal with units before I even consider relationships. Okay. I want to get rid of meters, so I'm going to put meters on the bottom. And I want to get into kilometers, so I'm going to put kilometers on top. Now, if you look at your table, in 1 kilometer, there are 1,000 or 10 to the third meters. So what you're going to do now is take 2.5 and divide it by 10 to the third, and you will get 2.5 times 10 to the negative third. Now notice the nice thing about these ones, you don't really have to worry about sig figs. Just keep an eye out for them. But here I've got 2 sig figs here. This is a relationship, and so I'm not going to consider the 1 or the 10 to the third. So I have 2 sig figs here. My answer automatically has 2 sig figs. So some people asked, oh, can I write 2.5000? And the answer is no, because you only want 2 sig figs. And then my units are kilometers. Okay. All right, let's do the next one. My given in this case is ounces. So I start with 8 ounces. I'm going to crisscross-swoosh, put the units I want to get rid of on bottom, which are ounces. And I'm trying to get into pounds, so I'm going to put pound up top. Now I give you this relationship, so for every 1 pound, there are 16 ounces. Okay. So I'm going to write my answer. 8 divided by 16 is a half, or 0.5. My units are pounds. So I put my units, I'm done with that. The other thing I have to worry about is sig figs. Now, remember here, I don't consider the 1 or the 16 for significant figures. I only consider 8. And so 0.5, which I had written before, has 1 sig fig. So I'm good to go. Next one. Climb through them. My given is 5 kilometers. I'm going to crisscross-swoosh. I'm going to try and get rid of kilometers, so put them on the bottom. And I need to get into miles. So I'm going to put miles up top. I give you the relationship here. In 1 mile, there are 1.6 kilometers. So what I'm going to do is take 5 and divide it by 1.6. So my answer that I get is 3.125. My units are miles. And now I need to round to the correct number of sig figs. Remember, ignore these 2 for sig figs. You're just looking at 5. And 5 has only 1 sig fig, so it would be 3 miles. And there's your answer. Next one. All right. In this problem, it gets a little bit tricky because this is mega. That's one prefix, and here's another prefix. So if you're going from a unit with a prefix to another unit with a prefix, it's going to be a 2-step problem. Not impossible at all, just a little bit more work. So I start off with 5 megaliters, and I'm going to crisscross-swoosh. I first want to go to my base unit. Now, if you're wondering, well, what's your base unit? Cover up your prefix, and that's your base unit. So liters, in this case, are my base unit. So I'm going to get rid of megaliters, so put them on the bottom. I first want to get into liters. But I don't want to stay in liters because I want to get into milliliters. So I'm going to have one more step, crisscross-swoosh. I'm going to put liters on bottom and milliliters up top. Because, if you'll notice, what that does, megaliters are canceled, liters are canceled, and I'm left with milliliters, which is what I wanted in the first place. Alright, so I'm going to put in relationships. If you look at your table, it relates meters and millimeters. That's the same relationship here, only I've changed my unit to liters. So in 1 liter, there are 10 to the third. Oh, sorry. Actually, that was wrong. This is mega. This isn't milli. Sorry, my bad. So in 1 megaliter, there are 10 to the 6 liters. Okay? And then for here, in 1 liter, just look at the relationship between milli and your base unit. They're 10 to the third. So sorry about that. So they're 10 to the 6 liters in 1 megaliter. They're 10 to the third milliliters in a liter. Don't get freaked out by the different units that are on your table. Okay? Just find liter. Liter is your base unit, so use the prefixes. All those relationships stay the same. So what you'll do is do 5 times 10 to the 6th times 10 to the 3rd, and you get 5 times 10 to the 9th. Now, first important thing is that you are now in milliliters, so I included units. Let's check sig figs. Remember, ignore this, just look at the 5. That's 1 sig fig, and I've still got 1 sig fig, so we're good to go. All right, next one, I'm going from nanometers to decameters. So again, since both of these have prefixes, it's going to be a 2-step problem, which is fine. My given is 340 nanometers. I want to first go from nanometers into my base unit, which is, if you cover up nanometers, in this case it's meters. So crisscross-swoosh, put nanometers on bottom, meters up top. And now I'm going to get into decameters. So crisscross-swoosh again, meters on bottom, decameters up top. Alright, now if you look at your table, there are 10 to the 9th nanometers in 1 meter. And here, the relationship is that in 1 decameter, there are 10 meters. Okay. So what you'll do is you'll take 340, divide 10 to the 9th, and then divide by 10, and you should get 3.4 times 10 to the negative 8th. Now here's the interesting thing. 340 has 2 sig figs, 1, 2, because the 0 doesn't count because we're counting from right to left. And this also has 2 sig figs, so I already took care of the sig figs without realizing it. And my units are decameters. Okay. For the next one, your given is 120 centimeters squared. Okay, so first I'm going to deal with units, and then I'll deal with relationships, so don't freak out until you need to. Here, since I'm in centimeters squared, I'm going to put centimeters squared on bottom. I'm going to put meters squared up top. Now, the only funky thing here is that if I am writing a relationship and trying to put the relationship, since the relationship I know is that 100 centimeters, or 10 to the 2nd centimeters, equals 1 meter, I'm going to need to take that relationship and just square it. Don't square this. Leave this alone. This is fine. But because 100 centimeters equals 1 meter, I need to square these two in order to get the relationship between centimeters squared and meters squared. So it's going to be 10 to the second, and that whole thing is going to be squared. Same thing for the meter squared. There should be a 1 in front of that, and that should be squared. Well, 1 squared is just 1. Okay? So I'm going to take 120 and divide it by, well, 10 squared, then squared again. You would just multiply these exponents, so you end up getting 10 to the 4th. So what you'll get, you have two different options. You can write 0.012. Again, 2 sig figs here, 2 sig figs here. We're good to go. Don't put a 0 on the end or else I'll have to take off. Or you can also put it into scientific notation. All you have to do for that is move your decimal place over 2 places, 1, 2. So it's going to be 1.2 times 10 to the negative second. Either one works perfectly fine. And your units are meters squared. Okay. Last one. I'm going from centimeters cubed to meters cubed. So I start with my given, which is 2,340 centimeters cubed. Criss-cross-swoosh. Before you freak out, just deal with units first. So centimeters cubed go on bottom. Meters cubed go up top. Okay. And then, again, there are 10 to the second, or 100 centimeters in a meter. And so I'm going to put 10 squared here. However, since this unit is cubed, I now have to cube 10 squared. And then 1 cubed. So 1 cubed is 1. 10 squared raised to the third would be 2 times 3, so it would be 10 to the 6th. So I'm going to take 2,340 divided by 10 to the 6th, and I get 0.00234. My units are meters cubed. If you notice, this has 3 sig figs, 1, 2, 3. This has 3 sig figs, 1, 2, 3, so don't add anything else. Or you could write it as 2.34 times 10 to the negative third meters cubed. And that's it.